Last month, Arizona Democrat Kyrsten Sinema gave a speech at the McConnell Center at the University of Louisville. Yes, that McConnell. Old Mitchy boy was there for her speech too. During her talk, Sinema laid on the praise for the filibuster, a tactic that Obama has called a Jim Crow relic that still has a stranglehold on our Congress. Sinema, it turns out, is one of the greatest proponents of the filibuster in Congress today. In fact, Sinema wants to expand the filibuster to areas that have been changed in recent years, like judicial appointments. At her speech, she acknowledged that her support of the expansion of the filibuster was not a popular opinion, saying that not everyone likes that, but if we did restore it, we would actually see more of that middle ground in all parts of our governance. Before her speech, Mitch gave her effusive praise, saying she is the most effective first-term senator he's seen during his 37 years in the Senate, and she is today what we have too few of in the Democratic Party, a genuine moderate and a deal maker. Frankly, if Mitch approves of it, then it's a no for me, dog. Sinema's argument is that doing away with the filibuster would increase partisan divides and allow for dramatic shifts in partisan lawmaking depending on which party has control. But is that true? And frankly, what even is a filibuster? How does it work? Why do we care about it? I didn't know either, so I got my grimy little hands on the information and now I'm gonna tell you about it. Okay, what the heck is a filibuster though? To understand that, you need to know a little bit more about the way that a bill is passed. It is first introduced, then sent to the appropriate committee for discussion. If a majority of the committee votes in favor, it is then passed to the whole chamber for a debate. Most bills need a simple majority to pass. However, a larger number is needed to cut off debate in order for the bill to go to a vote. In the Senate, that number is 60 votes. So without 60 votes, someone could prolong the debate and refuse to cede the floor for a vote. You know what's not up for debate though? Being prepared for growth in your small business by getting set up for busy shipping seasons, especially with the holidays right around the corner. If you're a small business owner with shipping needs, be sure to set yourself up for success before drowning in orders. With ShipStation, you can handle the shipping of your online orders all conveniently in one place, which allows you to operate efficiently and maximize your growth. ShipStation integrates with every platform. I'm talking Amazon, eBay, Etsy, Shopify, and more, so you can manage all your shipping from one simple dashboard. Also with ShipStation, you can compare carriers, rates, and shipping times to make sure you're getting the best shipping possible for your customers with every order. And you get the same discounted shipping rates as Fortune 500 companies, whether you're sending a stack or a whole truck full. Join over 130,000 companies who have grown their e-commerce businesses with ShipStation, including Solly Baby, who shipped their adorable baby wrap to my bestie Allie as a baby shower present for her fresh baby, easily and efficiently, just in time for that little potato's birth. Ship more and grow with ShipStation. Go to shipstation.com/Leeja today and sign up for a free 60-day trial. Start today and get set up before the busiest shipping season of the year. That's 2 months free. Visit shipstation.com/Leeja. Thank you, ShipStation, for partnering with me on today's video. The original filibuster is a relic from the 1800s, more often used back then by the House, unlike today, where it's exclusively used by the Senate. Back then, they would perform a talking filibuster by literally talking a bill to death. When debate is opened for a proposed legislation, a congressperson, or a group of them, who didn't like the bill would stand and speak and hold the floor for as long as possible until time ran out to vote on the bill, thereby blocking the bill from passing. By the middle of the 19th century, the practice of talking a bill to death had become so popular that it was given the name filibuster, derived from the Spanish word filibusteros, a name given to pirates who raided Caribbean islands. In 1841, the House voted to limit the time one representative could speak during a debate to 1 hour, thereby eliminating the filibuster in the House. The Senate, however, has had the tradition of allowing a bill to be talked to death since 1806, when old Aaron Burr You know him. Yeah, he decided, you know, this rule that we have where we both have to have a majority vote to pass a bill and have a majority vote to end debate in order to begin the vote to pass the bill. Yeah, that seems redundant. Why don't we get away with the vote to end the debate? Which then meant that senators could speak for an unlimited amount of time on the debate floor because they got rid of the ability for senators to vote to end debate. And this little blunder by Aaron Burr, sir, lasted a full century until President Woody Wilson said, and I quote, "The Senate of the United States is the only legislative body in the world which cannot act when its majority is ready for action." He complained, "A little group of willful men, representing no opinion but their own, have rendered the great government of the United States helpless and contemptible." In that year, 1917, the Senate passed Rule 22, which reinstated the vote to end debate over a bill, but required a 2/3 vote to end the debate. In 1975, the Senate reduced the requirement to 60 votes to end a filibuster, and that's where we sit today. This vote to end the filibuster is also called cloture, as in cloture must be invoked to end the filibuster. By the mid-1900s, the filibuster became a favorite of racist segregationists to obstruct civil rights and anti-lynching bills. In fact, it was so prevalently used by segregationists that the filibuster began to be used exclusively during civil rights and anti-lynching bills and never for anything else. A recent article in The Atlantic noted that, somewhat ironically, it was precisely because the filibuster was such an effective tool for defending segregation, and because segregationists in turn became the filibuster's staunchest defenders, that obstruction via the filibuster on other issues was relatively rare. Most senators didn't want to legitimize Jim Crow's favorite procedural tactic. That's right, the filibuster. Jim Crow's favorite procedural tactic. It wasn't until the 1970s that the filibuster that we know today began to form. But if you're wondering how come we have this constant threat of filibusters, but I never actually see any senators standing up and doing the filibustering, that's because there's two different kinds of filibusters. There's a talking filibuster where you stand and you talk to block the bill from passing, but then there's the silent filibuster, which has been available for senators since the early 1970s, when the Senate moved to a two-track system whereby other Senate issues can be dealt with and not held up by a filibustering minority. But moving to this two-track system meant that a silent minority could now block a debate and subsequent vote on legislation. Basically, if 41 senators threaten to filibuster a vote, then the vote just won't happen, and neither will the debate. Gone are the days of yore when senators had to stand and be heard in order to block votes. Instead, deals and conversations are had in back rooms where senators can quietly say yay or nay to bills before a vote is even suggested, leaving bills dead in the water before they even make it to the Senate floor. Of course, those who are in favor of the filibuster varies depending on which party is controlling the Senate at any given time. Of course, the minority party is going to favor the ability to block the majority party from getting anything done. But the fear that Kyrsten Sinema and others have of extreme partisanship if the filibuster would be done away with, well, first of all, yeah, we're already living in partisan hell here. So at least if we're voting partisan bills through, then the party that holds the majority can actually do the things that the majority voted them in for. But also, the filibuster is actually antithetical to what the framers of the Constitution wanted to happen in order to advance legislation in Congress. Framers like Hamilton and Madison were specifically leery of this kind of minority rule. In Federalist Paper number 22, Hamilton wrote, "To give a minority a negative upon the majority, which is always the case where more than a majority is requisite to a decision, is, in its tendency, to subject the sense of the greater number to that of the lesser." James Madison expanded upon the danger of giving the minority faction outsized power, writing, "In all cases where justice or the general good might require new laws to be passed, or active measures to be pursued, the fundamental principle of free government would be reversed. It would be no longer the majority that would rule. The power would be transferred to the minority." And the minority rule that the filibuster supports is further amplified simplified by the very structure of the Senate, where each state gets 2 senators. This gives smaller, lesser populated, rural, whiter states equal say on the Senate floor as larger, more populous, often more liberal and diverse states. And it means that to this day, civil rights legislation in the form of voting rights, marriage equality, and abortion are held up in the Senate because of the constant threat of filibuster from that minority. So what do? How do we reform the filibuster? Do we do away with it entirely? Well, a lot of people have been coming up with a lot of different options that, instead of just getting rid of the filibuster entirely, would reform it so that it works in a way that still promotes democratic debate. One suggested reform would be to just get rid of the silent filibuster. If a senator wants to hold up a vote on something, fine, but they need to actually stand up and do something that is really hard in order to do that. Many supporters of the filibuster say, well, we can't get rid of it because it promotes debate. Then fine, get up and debate, because the silent filibuster certainly doesn't promote any discussion at all, at least not in the public sphere, where senators will be on the record and very publicly, literally standing up for what they believe in. This would increase transparency by forcing senators to put their name on a filibuster effort. It would also probably decrease use in the filibuster because it would be a harder thing to do, and senators would be less likely to filibuster bills left and right. One issue with this, though, is that a filibuster would once again hold up the entire Senate every time someone took the floor to filibuster. Another alternative reform that has been proposed would shift the responsibility from the majority to the minority. Instead of having the majority reach a 60-vote threshold to end the filibuster, the minority would need to meet the 41-vote threshold to keep the filibuster going. This would allow the Senate business to continue, but also would allow the majority senators to call a vote to continue the filibuster repeatedly over time, instead of just holding one definitive vote. So they could check in to see if there are still 41 senators who wanted to continue the filibuster. And one other suggested reform would go back to a present and voting standard, which was in place in the 1970s. Basically, it would lower the number of senators needed to reach cloture or end the filibuster, based on the percentage of total senators present. Because the current setup requires those in the majority to be present to vote in any legislation, but those in the minority who maybe don't want to have to answer for their votes later on in the campaign trail are just conveniently absent and can say, I wasn't there. I didn't filibuster against your voting rights bill, for example. By changing to a present and voting standard, it would put the onus on the minority to be present in order to have their voice count. Of course, the problem with any of these reforms is that it's requiring the Senate to police itself, which, of course, as we talked about in my video about Congresspeople being able to trade individual stocks in industries they directly regulate, the Senate, or Congress generally, doesn't love to impose rules on itself, especially because this change to the filibuster rules would, of course, be a debatable question that might be held up by, yes, a filibuster. And so the circular hellscape of American politics continues. I hope you find this helpful going into the midterm elections. Perhaps ask your senators how they feel about filibuster reform if you're interested in pushing senators to actually debate topics and show up to work instead of sitting in back rooms making filibuster threats. Thank you once again to my partner on today's video, ShipStation. Reminder to go to shipstation.com/Leeja to get your 60-day free trial. Link is in the description below. If you enjoyed this and want to support my work bringing you videos like this, please consider becoming a member of this channel or joining me over on Patreon, where we have a lively Discord chat, Leeja's book club, behind the scenes stuff, and so much more. Thank you especially to newest Patreon supporters Helen Hunt on Wheels, Travis Willett, Nathan, and Tay, and as always, thank you to my royal patrons, Old Man Pence, Fork McSpoon, Ellen L, Daniel Taylor, and Lita M, and a very special thank you to my multi-platinum patrons, Brett Piontek and Cyrus Solka. Your generosity is greatly appreciated and makes this channel what it is, so thank you. If you liked this video, you might also like this video answering the question, why are Congresspeople allowed to trade and profit on their insider information in the stock market? Thanks so much for watching. Have a good day. Bye-bye.